Hello, everybody that came to join us today. Welcome to today's episode of The Outlet, Lunch and Learn with SheTek's Extraordinary Women. Today's episode is the 4th episode in our ongoing webinar series. I'm so excited. You guys have made it so we can have 4 episodes so far, and we see no end in sight. We love bringing this information to you, and we love that you're coming to join us. I'm Meg Virag, and I'm the program coordinator at SheTek. I'll be your host today. I run the SheTek community. I'm doing our social media. Generally, you're talking to me when you're talking to SheTek. We'll be recording today's webinar so you can catch up with us if you have to duck out a little bit early or if you just couldn't make it today. We'll make sure that we post it up in the community and get it out to everybody in SheTek so you can all see it and catch up. Right now, everybody that's attending is muted by default. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end of today's session after our interview and our conversation. You can submit all your questions into the chat box as they come to mind, and then we'll have the chat period at the end with the Q&A. And then we'll also, in case we don't get to all your questions, we'll have a follow-up conversation in the community where we'll be sure to get you answers to all of the questions that you have. Today's episode of The Outlet is brought to you by SheTek, an initiative of PamTen Inc., which is dedicated to increasing the number of women in the tech industry pipeline. Today's episode is a conversation exploring artificial intelligence, continued learning, and why AI and continuous learning are so important to women in tech. We'll be talking to 2 of SheTek's extraordinary women today, Chaya, Pamula, SheTek founder and PamTen president and CEO, and Dr. Chitra Dorai, founder and CEO of Amicus Brain and member of the SheTek Power team. Chaya Pamula is SheTek's co-founder and also the co-founder, CEO, and president of PamTen, one of our sponsors here on The Outlet. PamTen is an award-winning global IT services and staffing organization conceptualizing innovative software products and solutions for its clients and overseeing them from development all the way into implementation. Whole shebang, we got you covered. So we're work-leading PamTen. Chaya saw for herself the challenges of hiring women in tech. She wanted to hire, but the resumes weren't coming in. Though those jobs were available, she didn't see the applications, so she went on to found SheTek to increase that number of women coming into the tech staffing pipeline. Chaya also combined her business acumen and her passion for charity to found Softkin, a nonprofit organization that operates in the United States and India and creates loving and caring homes for over 100 children in need. Dr. Chitra Dorai is a founder and CEO of Amicus Brain, an AI-powered decision support platform that transforms how aging adults make their critical long-term care decisions. The Amicus Brain platform delivers intelligent decision support and advisory services, which enables speedier and higher quality decision-making for the older adult population with their long-term care needs. If you haven't checked out Amicus Brain already, you should, because it really does do a lot for helping people in need with those important medical decisions. And there's even a community involved in that. So I love communities. Everybody should take a look if it interests them. Dr. Dorai is also a globally renowned AI scientist with 25 plus years of R&D experience and extensive portfolio of innovations with research contributions in computer science, neural networks, machine learning, and more. Dr. Dorai was also the first Indian woman on the globe to be recognized as an IBM fellow, which is IBM's highest technical honor. I had to call that out because I thought that was just so cool. With more than 45 patents, Dr. Dorai is an accomplished inventor as well. Also, as a member of the SheTek Power team, Dr. Dorai is also committed to increasing the number of women in the tech staffing pipeline, and she's an active volunteer and helps others with learning about science and getting women into STEM as well. We're so glad that you could join us today on The Outlet, Chitra. Today, Chaya is going to be joining us via the phone. She's going to be dialed in. She's not going to be on video today, but we have Chitra and me on video for us to see.
All right. Thank you, Meg.
Great to hear.
Chitra, glad to be talking to you.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Chaya, for inviting me to this episode.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Dr. Dorai, some of our listeners might not have a full understanding of what artificial intelligence actually is. It's one of those buzzwords that we hear thrown around a lot in the news, or maybe you see it online, and you don't know exactly what that means, how AI is touching our lives every day. Can you tell us what we're referring to, Dr. Dorai, when we say AI in 2020?
Absolutely. The way the press portrays it, AI is like a magic dust. You know, you sprinkle on it, voila, things happen. So to simply put, think of AI as the ability of a computer or a computer-enabled robot to perform functions, tasks that are typically associated with intelligent beings, namely understanding what we call unstructured information. Think of them as not numbers, but images, speech signal, waveforms, etc. So being able to understand patterns out of this unstructured data, which is text and audio and video and images. And not only understanding, but also going to reasoning with that level of data. I'm going to give you some examples soon. But understand, reason, and last but not the least, learn. The AI systems have the core ingredient of continuously learning and therefore improving their performance. So therefore, that's how we differentiate them from rule-based programmable systems. Some people also include the ability to interact with us, human beings, in a very natural way using speech or being able to type in natural language text and being able to be understood. That also is often thrown into the mix as a computer demonstrating intelligence. So therefore, understand, reason, learn, and interact. So you will hear often, so that comprises of what an artificially intelligent system does. You also will hear often machine learning thrown into it, AI and machine learning. If you look at it closely, machine learning is a part of AI. So when people talk about machine learning, think of that as statistical analysis of data in order to discern patterns. I told you about understanding, that's what, recognizing the patterns that are there or discovering patterns that may not be there. So easy examples would be Face ID. So our phones recognize our faces and lets us in. Siri recognizes what we are speaking. So this is all recognition of patterns, understandings. It's a statistical analysis, machine translation system. But AI is more than machine learning. So it goes beyond recognizing what patterns are. It is about reasoning also. Reasoning, planning, scheduling. Take the example of autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars. So self-driving cars it's a great example of an intelligent system. And it has to do recognition because it is driving on the road by itself. It has to understand the lane markings to keep to the lane. And it has to recognize stop signs or the yield signs and the traffic lights. So that is recognition, understanding what is there in the data. But it's not only enough to understand. If it sees a stop sign, it needs to be able to reason and say, do I have enough stopping distance at the speed I am going? Accelerate, decelerate, and should I swerve? So all these are decisions that it needs to take in the very shortest time. So not only recognition of patterns, but also reasoning with it in the face of uncertainty because you don't have perfect information. So that is also a clear demonstration of an artificially intelligent system because that's what human beings, we excel at that.
Yes. I mean, that's fascinating because I never really thought about how when you speak to Siri that's a pattern that it's recognizing. I never really considered how that would apply. So that's a really interesting way to talk about it. And especially when you think about women and how women supposedly excel in pattern identification, it seems like a good way for women to get involved there. Many of us think of artificial intelligence as a newer career path in tech, especially because many of us became familiar with it within recent years. Can you tell us how you came to your career in artificial intelligence?
Sure. Mine started when I was very young. I was always fascinated by how brains work. So by age 10, I knew I was going to be at that time, I thought I was going to become a neurosurgeon because I wanted to tinker around. I wanted to open up the brain and look at, and what makes Chitra different from her brother. I was fascinated by we grew up in the same family, but we were different. And so I was always fascinated by the behavioral aspects. So what makes our brains tick? But as I went through high school, I turned into an engineer, and but my fascination with brains never stopped. So I went on to doing neural networks, studying neural networks for my master's. So I actually built a computational model of how human beings' memory might work. some of the early work in neural networks. I implemented, this is for the techies in the audience, John Hopkins network, backpropagation algorithm, and competitive learning. Some of these early techniques in the late 80s, I implemented them for my master's in order to build out how this associative memory might work. I partnered with a neurologist at that time. Then I went on to studying computer vision for my PhD. So, as I look back, there is a continuous thread of this, or continuous fascination about brains, and being an engineer, I like to build computational models of how some of the intelligence functions that we do so seamlessly, so effortlessly, how do we bring that level of intelligence into computers so that they augment, they enrich the work we do.
Yes. I mean, that's so fascinating, thinking about how you can grow that model just like that, just like a human brain, that same kind of way. So I guess that was just a natural transition as a part of your career at IBM then, just moving all throughout that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'd love to start with you on this question, and then maybe Chaya might have something to share about it too. Why is AI so meaningful to our lives today, do you think? Why do you think AI is so meaningful to us right now?
Absolutely. So in the last nearly 10 years have been one of the most glorious periods for advances in artificial intelligence. The abundance of data available to train computers to become increasingly intelligent, and the computational power, as well as the maturity of some of the statistical machine learning techniques, all came together in a perfect storm to make many of the systems that we today take for granted happen. Think about it, right? I mentioned Face ID, speech recognition, voice assistance, and so any area that touches on consumer journey, think of consumer experience, have been profoundly already been transformed by the infusion of AI. And now what we are seeing is the increasing embedding of AI right into the back office business processes too. So AI is a natural, I would say, inevitable progress or progression in our continued advances in automation that we are making, right? So we not only want calculators, but we also want computers that can to which we can offload some of the intelligence tasks that might otherwise take our time. So it is one of the it is definitely considered one of the most transformative technology, as it can impact everything from our daily lives to how we work and to how we live. So it's a complete reimagination of our lives. So
that's great. And Chaya, I know that PamTen does some work with some companies that are attached to AI as well. Do you see anything from your position as a business leader for why AI might be so meaningful to our lives right now? I know that you touch it in a different kind of way.
Yeah, definitely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so great points from Chitra. The way the industry is going, I was actually looking at Gartner's CIO surveys. It says the percentage of enterprises that have deployed AI has grown from 4% in 2018 to 14% in 2019. That should really talk about how the organizations are moving in that direction. So organizations like government agencies, nonprofits, some of the corporates, big corporates, I would say in the AI, they're just scratching the surface right now. There is so much of opportunity, there's so much of learning opportunity, and so much to be accomplished through the analysis of information that is that these organizations are collecting. So if you're talking about the organizations like manufacturing, you're talking about healthcare, retail, Even you're talking about the industries that are focused on virtual reality, gaming, talk about everything, and good to even bad probably. There are so many opportunities in the AI space. So as an organization for PamTen, my primary responsibility is to also strategize for companies' growth and future growth. So I tend to learn a lot about what is happening in the industry, and this is something no, AI and machine learning cannot skip the attention of someone who is in the industry, whether it is technology or non-technology industry, because there is a huge prediction that AI is going to take on a lot of desk jobs and administrative jobs in the industry. And I don't want to see this as a job reduction kind of growth. It's actually going to be creating more space for a lot of innovation and new jobs and new opportunities for the organizations. So for PamTen, as far as PamTen is concerned, being in the technology industry, it is becoming more and more evident for PamTen to start to think about how we can serve our clients better, and also be there to provide cutting edge solutions to our clients. We need to be prepared to provide right solutions to our clients, which means we need to be educated ourselves, and we also need to be moving in the direction. So PamTen is looking out for opportunities to partner or to acquire or to merge with the organizations that are working in this new technologies. It's not because we cannot do, but it's also, by combining the forces, we are not reinventing the wheel, but you're able to provide a faster solution to our clients. So I'll give you an example, of how I met Chitra. I was at a conference where Chitra was speaking, and she spoke about her new product that she's bringing into the market in the healthcare industry using AI. That really fascinated me. I went and spoke to Chitra, and I suggested that we should talk more, and that's how our friendship developed, and we realized that we could work together, and now we are partnering in developing that product with Chitra. So there are many opportunities, and I think there is no excuse for any organization to say that they're not ready for it. I think it's high time people get onto that train, and whether it is in a small way or a big way, the organizations have to learn this space about these technologies, and to be there in that space, even as someone who is sitting there and watching what's happening in the industry.
Let me add one additional point to Chaya beautifully laid out about the business leaders. I think it's not only there is tremendous amount of technological advances going on in AI, but I think it's also important for the business leaders to be cognizant of these advances, perhaps at the right level in order to translate it for the benefit of their corporations, because AI technology can do greater social good as well as greater harm. So it is going to be the imperative of the CEO to be mindful of how they plan to use, to have a say, clear position, perspective. So they are leading the organization in a manner that aligns with their mission and purpose in the use of AI. So this is not one I would imagine to be relegated to a team, IT team. So that's why it's great to see Chaya, totally involved in the way how PamTen is going to be using, how PamTen is using, and how PamTen will be using. So that you are setting the stage, the right context for everyone in the organization.
Completely agree, Chitra. They also say AI with empathy, right? So AI can do a destruction if you cross the lines. So it's important, definitely agree, to see where it is applicable and what good it can bring to the organization.
It sounds almost like an Isaac Asimov story or something with the rules of the robotics and all that. Is that still talked about within the AI field?
Absolutely, in robotics, yes.
That's so neat. That's real cool. So Chitra, how have you seen the AI field change since you've joined up? Do you see more women pursuing AI careers than there were previously, or are we seeing like a lot, or not so many, or?
I always tell this story. So when I went to IIT to do my undergraduate in electrical engineering, we were 3 students in a class of 70 plus, 3 women. So I said, okay, I'm going to the US to do my PhD, and I'm going to have more women in class, and this is not going to be just the 3, lots of choices to make, lots of different kinds of new friends, right? So I come here, and the underrepresentation of women in STEM, crosses, transcends national borders. If that's one way of putting it. So I've been so singularly focused on one of my continued give backs, and focus is always to help build the pipeline. So having said that, given that context, so with AI, just in the 30 years, since I've been a student and become a practitioner and so on, there have been tremendous advances from the technology that's just opened up opportunities to reimagine the products that we use, the work we do. Now, on the representation, unfortunately, not enough, to simply put. Until we achieve parity, we need to continuously work towards that. I just saw this World Economic Forum 2020 Gender Gap Report. It mentions a statistic of less than 26% of data and AI professionals are women. And I feel like when I read that, I felt that was generous. Probably they did a bigger sweep to come up with that. If you actually look at it just narrowly AI, probably there will be even the statistics, the number will be much lower. So we have a long road to travel in terms of increasing the parity.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of maybe mentorship or role models, or do you think maybe it's just the general sense of not enough women in STEM still?
One continued, I think this has been so well studied, is not enough representation in the early stages, early parts of the pipeline. So when you don't have pipeline in middle school and high school with girls and young women continuing their studies in science and mathematics, the funnel just gets narrower as we move up to undergrad and graduate school and PhD and so on. So that is a continued struggle we have that we all of us are trying to fulfill, right? That's why it's important not only mentor at the I did a lot of mentoring of undergraduate, masters, and PhD theses when I was at IBM as a researcher. But I started doing a lot more targeted at elementary school and middle school, as I saw that we really need to augment the pipeline. So that is one. And of course, the lack of community, right? Community support as you face the rigors of the demands of STEM, curriculum. I told you I was one of 3 women in undergrad. I wish we had more. So I think it is that peer support and encouragement from the community will go a long way in sticking to it, right? In women sticking to that. And even if what I saw also, the third cause is even if we stick to it and come to workplace and find a technical job, the lack of care infrastructure as we get married and have children, that also plays a role into it. So there are so many spots for us to fall out, for women to fall out, and we have to close all of those gaps. And it has to be a concerted effort. We can't just tackle one. It has to be done in a concerted fashion to plug all these holes and improve the pipeline.
Yeah, I agree with Chitra. I mean, this is one of the major problems, right? The girls from younger age have to be encouraged to study the essential subjects like math and science. This will open doors for opportunities to go on to pursue a career in technology, if not artificial intelligence, right? I think it's important that engineering and computer science, those are the areas where women have to be represented much higher, especially in the upper management positions. As Chitra was saying, even though women take up these career roles, they need women in the organizations who are in the upper management positions who can mentor them and even sponsor them to grow in the organizations. And Meg, you and me were on a panel about mentoring, right? So to continuously engage these women and also to encourage and allow them to grow into higher positions, it's important that you have the sponsors in the organizations. So AI would be, applied to all sorts of new problems, right? It actually creates countless new tasks for the technology, which means new opportunities for women. So there is nothing to be intimidated about AI. I think it's all to do with giving them that level of comfort and eliminating that intimidate feeling about AI. I think more women need to really come forward to provide that level of guidance. Not only women, even, I've had many men as mentors in my career. So it's important that women, eliminate that feeling of intimidation about technology. They need to really move forward to understand, be inquisitive to learn new things, new technologies. There is tremendous amount of opportunity for women to grow in these fields.
Yes, definitely. So we definitely, I mean, it's so important talking about that community support piece too. That's why SheTek is here, right? We're a community of women designed to support in your tech career. So if you're not already a part of our community, you want to get in there for preparing for your AI career, right? So I wanted to say, I wanted to ask, why is it important that women get involved in AI? I mean, it's important that we achieve parity just for equality's sake, but is there a deeper reason for why we want to get women involved now?
Yes, from a design perspective, as Chaya and I both alluded to the promise and the perils of AI, right? So AI systems have shown to be bias prone if not properly designed and the machine learning models are trained. And the more diversity that we have in the design phase, you are going to have a much broader representation of the needs and the requirements, and ensuring that it is what is getting built answers to the broader audience, the broader population, not just, we have so many examples of things that were built for one part of the demographics and then had to be retooled, or the second half of the demographics needed to adjust itself to start using the tools as they are. So I look at it as how do we have women engage very early on in the design phase of the technology itself, especially with the AI. I think having more women participate will increase the diversity of thoughts, ideas, and skills, which will get reflected in the ultimate product that becomes useful to everyone. So that's why it's very important. So if you want something, if you want a particular future, go build it. We have to take the power in our hands and ensure that we are at the drawing table right from get-go. So that's why it's very important. And I think also from business leaders, as I see more and more women at the helm of in senior leadership position, helm of companies, we want them to be sufficiently aware of the power of AI to lead the company, to ensure that they are not missing the boat. Because AI has can have a profound impact on the efficiencies, quality of work getting done by the company, as well as how they are going to interact with the customers. The entire consumer experience can be transformed. So we don't want the women leaders to be left out of the loop, so to speak. So that's why it's very important to have women keep track of what's happening at the right level that's needed for their role.
Yeah, Chitra, one thing I agree about the design aspect, and because it's so critical that, if you see in today's landscape, there are a lot of women that are in the front line of sales and marketing, right? So women tend to be a lot more, showing a lot more empathy to customers' concerns and needs. And imagine now with this AI technology, with whatever customers are posting on social media, with the AI, we are able to collect that data and process that data and even understand the emotions of the customers, right? And what they feel about the product or the service. So we are able to help the organizations to construct the message in such a way that it actually resonates well with the customers to buy your product or service. I think there is so much that women with their analytical skills and some of these, the organizational skills and understanding the customer's pulse, I think they can really be, a great contributor to the design aspect of these solutions. So I think in order to remove bias from AI, we need diverse perspectives among the people working on it. That means we need more women and more diversity overall in AI, right? So today we see majority of the people funding AI, working on AI, or even teaching AI, commenting on AI. Even if you look at the percentage of the startups in AI, they're all men. I was reading an article where Google researcher calls them as a sea of dudes, right? So it's important that female innovators also need to be out there. They are the ones who can also imagine new problems, new tasks, and they can design and build softwares that recognize human emotions. Actually, you're already seeing some women in the AI where they are creating storytelling robots and helping children to learn and read. I think this is just a start. As I was saying earlier, many organizations are just scratching the surface. There are tremendous amount of opportunities in space. So in a world of AI where researchers like you, visionaries and venture capitalists and startup founders, they're all, females, and if not at the very least, equally representative of men and women. I mean, imagine the future, how it would look like, right? It's going to be such a balanced economy.
Okay. AI for social good is definitely, I think, right up in our alley.
That's my passion.
Yeah, I think that's great. We can get the robots to fix it all for us, right? So Chaya, we touched on this a little bit before, but our audience is curious to hear about how you're developing your organizations to work with AI for your own work purposes. So not just for the clients, but what are you doing within PamTen or SheTek to ready the business for coming AI? Are we looking for AI solutions or anything like that?
Yeah, I say that we are at the starting phase, right? So for me, also it is a learning space. And we are so fortunate some of our employees have taken the initiative to learn about AI so quickly. They're already working on some of the projects at their client places. So it's actually an added bonus to PamTen. And the second thing is we continuously encourage our employees to learn new technologies and new skills, because it's important for every one of us to be, upgrading our skills and to be out there in the market where you are a trustworthy and consultative person for our clients. So as an organization, as I earlier mentioned, PamTen is always looking for opportunities to not only just grow, but looking at opportunities to partner with organizations that are already making progress in this space rather than reinventing the wheel. So I personally attend a lot of webinars and conferences. I also read a lot of articles. I try to upgrade my own skills so it becomes my responsibility to strategize for the organization for its future growth. So I encourage everybody in the organization to always upgrade their skills and do new things. We have invested in the AI space, so we are trying to develop those resources in that space. And we have already looked at a couple of products that we would be co-developing with organizations. So I would say there's a tremendous excitement for the organization. And also through SheTek channel, we are looking at how we could educate more women in the AI space, so we could hire them for our own development, and also give them job opportunities through our partnerships with other corporations.
So you hear that? If you're listening and you know all about AI and you want to come join SheTek, you can send me your resume at contact@shetek.net, and I'll make sure Chaya sees it, okay? All right, so one last one that I have on AI, I'm going to start with you, Chitra. What's your advice for anyone that might want to switch their career over into AI, or that they should start?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we are just living in the best of times, in a bigger perspective as far as AI is concerned. So I'm going to depict a couple of avenues, right? One is the what you would call it a more traditional route to learning the foundations, making sure you're taking mathematics and statistics and data science classes in the university, and therefore understanding the concepts and the foundations, and then moving on to becoming a practitioner. On the other hand, you already have a job, you have certain skills already, technology skills, and now you want to expand your skill set, so to speak, in AI. Let me offer practical tips. First of all, there's such a ton of information on the web. Often I think one is overwhelmed by it and faces, where do we start question. So I think it's good to have what I would call an AI platform skill. By that I mean, I'm not going to name the vendors, but people will know there are AI platforms available with APIs that do some of the important AI tasks, whether it's speech recognition or natural language understanding or building a chatbot. So one does not have to know the intricacies of what goes on in the backend, but one can actually pick up the skill of what do I build a useful application based on the application programming interfaces available on any of these platforms. Pick a platform, because once you know one platform, AI platform, it is very easy to expand with others. So that I would say, become familiar with an AI APIs that are available. The second is play with the data. For practitioners, especially the fun as well as the value comes in AI projects by building something. And working with the data. And Kaggle, I will say, is a place where a lot of data sets at the right level of scale is available to do meaningful experimentation. Rather than building a toy application, you can actually build a very meaningful application that you can showcase. So data sets that are available. And be part of open source community. I think they are all welcoming, and one can learn quite a bit by being part of. Again, this goes to community. With community, you're learning on the shoulders of giants who have already built a foundation. So you get peer support, you get you get to know some of the exciting things that are being built. So for the practitioners who are already skilled, learning Python would be very helpful. And as I just laid out, building an AI application yourself using techniques. All of these will not cost you money. It is your time. It is one's time, and that time is well spent because you are picking up a new skill and enriching your experience.
Yeah, definitely. So that's great advice for anybody. I love that about you don't need to know everything to build. You just start, because somebody like me, I get a lot of analysis paralysis, and I want to know what the end state is going to be before I get started. So I bet you a lot of people will really identify with that. I'd love to just switch gears for a few minutes and maybe touch on a little bit about our continued learning and the value that continuous learning can bring to a tech career, especially for women. So do you have any thoughts? We'll start with you on this one, Chitra, and then we'll move to Chaya. Why is it particularly important that women pursue continuous learning as a part of a tech career, as opposed to maybe for a man?
I think I call it continuous reinvention is par for the course now. It is such a fundamental element of how we live today, how we learn new things. Because the progress in technology and the kinds of applications that are needed to make our lives better, constantly expanding. That is never going to. It's relentless. That progress is relentless. So it's really a choice of either be left behind or be ahead of it. And I would rather that we all stay ahead of it. So that's why continuous learning is so critical. And there's an additional nuance to being a woman, because often we may get off the career path for a variety of reasons, and therefore it is important to stay abreast of what is going on in our area. It does not have to be technology, whether it is one is a marketing professional, one is a sales. So it is always good to be kept abreast, right? To be knowledgeable about the advances, and therefore tying into what I can do differently when I rejoin the workforce. So the on-ramp becomes much easier, especially when we have gotten out of the highway, so to speak. So continuous. I think this is applicable regardless of gender.
Yeah.
It's just the way, I think. It's just the way we have to not only to survive, to thrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Chaya? Did you have any thoughts around that? Do you think that it's important for women to continuously pursue further learning within their careers?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Chitra, I agree with Chitra when she said, it's applicable to both genders.
Mm-hmm.
I say that, there has been a shift in the hiring process. There were days where people would be looking at the credentials of the person to hire. But nowadays, I'm seeing a shift where, the focus is on the adaptability to change and whether the individual is motivated or is the person self-learner or not. And if you see the younger generation, they're more motivated to learn new technologies. So I think it's important for both men and women to really, if they're looking at shifting into an advanced technology, for both genders, it's important that they start to, they have their antennas up and try to listen into the market and what is happening, what are the new things that they have to learn, and keep upgrading their skills. Because there is a lot more focus on the skills. And especially for women, it can become a kind of, I would say a bit of a disadvantage with especially with the culture and, at the home front, some of the additional responsibilities that women have. And as Chitra said, for various reasons, sometimes women step down from their careers and they have to get back on train. It really requires a lot of passion and perseverance, right? To learn something, you have to sacrifice maybe your family time or your fun time. But if you're really passionate about keeping yourself up to date on the technologies and you're really, you want to be excelling in that space, more than any other industry, I think the technology industry demands a lot of your time in terms of learning new things, which requires a lot of commitment. I think that's important for women to know, because I give away a lot of my personal time. Obviously, I'm passionate about technology, but at the same time, it requires a lot of determination and commitment for you to keep learning new things. With AI especially, the most interesting thing I learned is by 2023, the number of people with disabilities employed will triple due to AI and emerging technologies, because it's going to be reducing the need for a lot of human intelligence to get in the way. So with the AI, people with disabilities are nearly completely who are untapped. It's untapped pool of critically skilled talent, but it's going to be a great opportunity for people with disabilities who are going to be employed through these AI skills. So AI skill doesn't mean that you know how the AI works. It's really about learning the technique behind AI and be able to manage and monitor the data, which is crucial information, right, for AI. The data is like heart of AI. So understanding that and being able to think of different scenarios and we apply it, and there are going to be new jobs that are going to be emerging, which will actually fulfill, the disability, and people who are with disabilities being employed through these AI positions. I know women who are already working in tech who may want to change into the career in AI. I think there are a lot of, as Chitra was mentioning, there are a lot of training and online training and resources available. I would say things like Google AI, Coursera, Udacity, LinkedIn, Udemy. Harvard is also offering free courses. I would say, one is people who want to get into the programming, designing and programming line. I think for them, there are different courses, but there are women who probably want to just learn the applicability of AI and what are the industries that are using AI. What as a skill do I need to learn to be part of that industry, right? You don't need to be a programmer for everything. Even if you understand the data, you can think of the business rules. Even if people who have got the business knowledge in the industries are going to be key contributors to the AI industry, because they are the ones who are going to be able to say how these decisions or the different decision trees can be augmented in AI. Right? These are the people who got the knowledge of the business, and it's not going to go waste. So there are tremendous amount of opportunities. I think we don't need to be intimidated by the technology, but I think once we start learning the applicability of the technology, it makes it much easier for women to accept those roles and to learn and give that time to learn.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's well said. Chaya said it. The potential of AI is not in the techniques that go into it. I think the potential is tremendous when it is applied to services and applications and products society needs, right? So that's why Amicus Brain, it's not about us inventing a new AI algorithm. It's about how we use AI to help caregivers who are dealing with complex needs as they care for their loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's. How can we mitigate the burden on the caregivers with the help of AI technology? So now the AI technology is the assistant to the caregivers, and it's a meaningful assistant. So there's less about the AI technology, the algorithms and the techniques. It's more about what is a powerful use case here, application here that can make a meaningful difference in the caregiver's life.
All right. That's great. Thank you guys so much for talking about that, because it is really important for everybody to pursue that continuous learning. I'm just going to ask one more question about continuous learning, then we can get to, we got a question from one of our viewers. I'd love to ask this just because I think that it's great for our audience to be able to identify with you guys. How do you keep yourself fresh with your own learning? I'm going to start with Chaya for this one because you guys have gotten to heights in business, but we'd love for you to share what you do to stay fresh, even from your position of leadership.
Oh, I think I mentioned earlier, right, Meg? I think, first of all, it's important that you have the passion for it. Otherwise, for women, it becomes really overhauling. It's exhausting to keep pace with the technology. So I think you need to really identify your niche, right? What is that you really want to be doing based on the current trends of technology? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? I think for business leaders like me, it is important to think about organization as a whole, where we want to be from a technology perspective, right? Always I question myself, what are the areas that our organization PamTen needs to focus on, right? We constantly churn that question. Do we want to be in cybersecurity? Do we want to be in AI space, or do we want to be in fintech space or e-commerce? There's so much out there, right? Sometimes it could just overwhelm the person and you could be going in multiple directions. I still struggle with that because as a company, we want to be in everything, right? We don't want to lose any opportunity. At the same time, it's also important for a company to understand where do you want to put your eggs in which basket, right? If not all eggs in one basket, but what's your focus, right? So in order to do that, it's important to continuously learn what is happening in the industry. So the way I do that is as I said, I attend webinars. I try to read a lot. I listen to podcasts. And I think I would say I gain a lot of knowledge when I talk to people. So I think networking is very, very important, right? So in today's COVID situation, I think, we are not meeting people in person, but, just schedule a Zoom call or have a phone call with people. Every time I speak to Chitra, for example, some new ideas pop up in my mind. It's because we try to constantly ask the question about what else can we do, what new things can we do, what is the industry doing. It's important that you keep asking those questions. So continuous learning is essential. At the same time, it takes a lot of energy and effort from the individual. So it's important that you pick your choice. What do you want to do? Where do you want to learn? And then try to get associated with those communities or groups and associate with those people, try to find mentors, attend webinars, and try to see how you can connect to the individuals who have got the knowledge, subject matter experts who can share more knowledge on that. I think there is a tremendous amount of resources out there. It's up to you how you choose and find your style of learning.
Great. So we got a question in from one of our audience members, and I actually thought this was a fantastic question. How do you see AI impacting how students in K through 12 and higher education are learning? Let's start with Chitra for this one, and then if Chaya wants to add on, she can, because this is Chitra's area of expertise.
So as we are in the middle of COVID and experiencing already, the entire education, that sector has been transformed forever, right? The notion of the traditional notion of classrooms and in-person training, teaching, all that is giving way to Zoom-based and more self-driven. So even a child in middle school today, has optional Zoom-in sessions, and rest of the work is more self-motivated, the teacher gives. So right from the way, think of that as the delivery of teaching, the delivery of training is what we are seeing how it has changed. And two, the content itself. So how do we understand, for example, the pedagogical style, how do children learn? Just like we have AI systems recommending the right kind of entertainment content based on the needs, based on the wishes, based on the past patterns of use from the consumers. I imagine even the way of learning being transformed with the infusion of AI. So there is no just one way, but there are multiple ways to learn, and the teachers with the right kind of AI technology will be able to fine-tune that. So they are not teaching to the large, but you are teaching to the individual. So there is a tremendous potential that remains untapped. We will be seeing that. Given the amount of data now we are collecting in terms of how the students are engaging, what kind of students engage the most, where they needed the most help, how they are using technology, we can imagine both the content and the delivery and the assessment, all of them being transformed.
Right, did you want to add anything on to that? I don't know if you have.
I totally agree. It's something I want to share as, that crossed my mind as Chitra is speaking about this. Nowadays, everything is online, right? It's all this class lessons are taught online virtually in schools. And many schools are not equipped to do that, especially with my nonprofit organization in India. All my kids are now, listening into virtual sessions. And the most interesting thing is there is no way to track that they turn the session on if they're really in front of the screen and listening to the session, or they just turn it on and they're wandering and playing, right? So the technology now needs to mature to a point where, even with the virtual classes, there's so much to learn, as Chitra was saying earlier, right? To understand the students, the level of engagement from the student, right? And also how do they engage? What is the type of engagement, and what's the percentage of time they're engaged in the lesson versus how much percentage are not engaged? How do we change our way of teaching the content of the lesson? I mean, it's if the more you think about it, the more ideas come into your head. But that's the opportunity I'm talking about. With the COVID has opened up, unfortunately, it's a challenging time, but it also opened many, many opportunities. And now with those opportunities, there is a lot more need for technologies like AI, because there is a intermediary layer between the human and the endpoint. And this layer needs to really behave like a human, be able to augment some decision making, and be able to change the content that is delivered based on the data that's been collected and processed, right? So it's mind-boggling, but it's also so exciting.
Chaya mentioned something which I just wanted to allude to. I think he used the word democratization. That is one of the most profound impacts. Now, whether a child is in some remote corner of the globe or in New York City, the access to content is unlimited. Think about Khan Academy's influence on children all over the globe. So this no longer we are going to be differentiated by the limited access one had to the teacher or to the material, because now one can get access to high quality content from any part of the globe. So I am totally excited by the democratization, by the quality of learning that brings about. That it's no longer the haves and the have-nots. The disparity slowly we will get equalized in terms of education.
I never really thought about it that way, so thank you for calling that out. And it really gives me big ideas for how we can use community management, like online community management, in these online classrooms. So there's a lot that we could go forward with that. I want to really thank you guys, and thank you, Dr. Dorai, for spending your time with us today and for taking the time to share these kinds of really actionable skills, strategies, things to learn, all these great new ideas for SheTek's audience. What I'd love to do is, I'm just going to stop your video for a second, Dr. Dorai. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take our last moment or so that way then I can give everybody a brief introduction to SheTek. The SheTek mission is, again, to increase the number of women in the tech staffing pipeline, and we do this through engaging, empowering, and employing women just like you, and men too. Engage with us in our community's active discussion board. We post new topics to discuss that are relevant to you and to your career. You can connect with top women in tech around the country, learn from them, share what you've learned with them. The SheTek community even has a matchmaking section where it can match you with others based on the interest in your profile, making it an ideal place to find a mentor. You can empower yourself with our community resources. We offer trainings in top skills like Tableau, Salesforce, DevOps, and more. Increase your skills, bulk up your resume, and get a new job. Catch on-demand trainings on our YouTube channel. Use our free downloadable worksheets to develop effective goals and self-branding strategies. And use the community for the tools that you need to increase those skills. You can get employed through SheTek. We've got a careers page. We post hot new tech opportunities from New Jersey, New York, around the rest of the United States every week. From highly skilled and highly paid roles to entry-level positions suited for us just getting started in tech, we've got a position for everybody. Stop by the SheTek careers page and find your next job today. Come join us over at shetek.net and take advantage of our resources, get to know us. We're a friendly bunch. We love to talk to you. You definitely want to stop by today because we'll be getting our follow-up conversation posted. So I want to come and hear what everybody's thoughts are about the webinar and about AI. Come join us, shetek.net. You can do bit.ly/join SheTek. This was a great episode today. Thank you again to Dr. Chitra Dorai of Amicus Brain and Chaya Pamula of SheTek and PamTen. Stay plugged into the outlet, join us in our community and your favorite social media channels for all of our updates. Talk to you soon. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you. Bye.